Hi, thanks for joining me for this video. Here we're going to talk about housework and actual spring cleaning, which really has to happen all throughout the year. Housework was traditionally seen as a woman's responsibility. And when we think about it, the days of homemaking are long gone, as 40% of US women are in the paid workforce, and 12.3 million home-based businesses are run by women. But 90% of women report that they carry the bulk of the work, running a family and running the house, on top of their jobs and parenting responsibilities. It's called the invisible load, and it really is something that is starting to get a little bit more traction in the media and in high-profile conversations, but definitely not to the point where there's equality at all. And a very successful high-profile entrepreneur, Melinda Gates, talked about how this played out in her own family in her book, The Moment of Lift. And she talked about a time in which everybody came together and ate the family dinner, and then very quickly when dinner was over, the three children and her husband, Bill Gates, left the table, and she sat there wondering, when did this become my responsibility? When did putting all of the dishes and all of the food away and wiping the table and washing up after dinner become my job? You know, she co-runs the Gates Foundation with her husband, Bill Gates, a multi-billion-dollar environmental and, medical agency or, whatever, healthcare agency. And here she is being left alone to tend to her dishes. So she stood up and she called everybody back to the table. And she set a rule, and she said, nobody leaves the table until everybody can leave the table, right? And so nobody could just get up and scatter. They all had to contribute. And when everything was done, then everybody could leave. So what would take her an hour plus of her evening every single night now was done by everybody, and the children cleared the table, put the dishes in the dishwasher, wiped down the table, and her and Bill would go in the kitchen and they would scrub their pots and wash their dinner dishes, and all the things that didn't go in the dishwasher. And she said it really became a bonding point for her and her husband. And I mean, there's a million questions like, who knew Bill Gates did his own dishes? That's fascinating already, right? But the point is that it doesn't matter what your household income is. There is a disproportionate, kind of responsibility on one person in the relationship. Now, the statistics are showing that oftentimes it's a woman carrying the responsibility, but there are many same gender responsibilities where one person traditionally carries all of the household duties. And so we need to talk about this a little bit, because when you feel like you are the one that carries all the burden and all of the mental load of knowing what food is in the fridge, what things need to be thought out, what is the responsibility here, how do we clean this, have the sheets been washed? Somebody carries that mental load. And if you are that person, resentment happens quickly, right? It doesn't take much, because you are already stacked pretty high with laundry and dirty shoes and, messy papers and piles of flyers and all the things. It happens really quickly. So we don't want that. We don't want there to be resentment growing in your relationship. And this becomes very complicated, because there are definitely families in which one person is the stay-at-home parent and one person goes to work. And so it does feel like the person who stays home should take care of the home. But I think we're forgetting how much responsibility that actually is. And so what I always recommend to my clients who are having some division of labor conflict is really to get clear on, what does it take to run your family? What does it take for a week or a month to do all the things that need to get done? How many times does grass need to be mowed? How many times does the pet need to be taken out to the vet, to, the dog park, all of those things? How many times does groceries happen in your house? How do you get things like, toilet paper and paper towels and garbage bags and cleaning supplies? How do you get that? Is that ordered? Do you go to the grocery store? Do you go to another store? Who does all of the sweeping and the vacuuming and the wiping and the bathroom cleaning? Itemize everything. Now, if you do things weekly, you just need to map this for a week. But if you have a monthly cycle, like once a month you do this, and once a month you do this, and once a month you do that, you might need a longer calendar. So I would say print out the calendar, I have one below, and start itemizing. What does it take to run your family? And when it's there in black and white, you can see all that has to happen. This is not necessarily parenting. This is not responsibilities to your family of origin. If you take your mom to the doctor, if you support your dad, in his workshop and you help him do things, it's not including those things. This is your household, the division of labor of your household. What are the chores and the housework responsibilities in your family, in your life? And itemize it. And once you see it all, first of all, you'll be shocked. If you get to 75 items, that's pretty typical of a family. That's pretty typical of how many things we do over a week, because you break it down, bring it down to its absolute core, and you will see how many things we do. So when you have it all itemized, understand the work responsibility, right? What does everybody have on their plates? If your partner is traveling for work, or if you have a partner who is taking care of a special needs child or an elderly parent, or has a job that is swing shift, so they work through the night, you know your own family. So you can start to say, look, we need to break this down a little bit more equitably. It doesn't matter that we have a stay-at-home parent. They can't do it all. There are 112 items on this list. That's just impossible for one person to carry and still feel romantic towards their partner, right? So there needs to be some shifting. There needs to be some give and take. And hopefully it becomes an easy process where one parent, perhaps the one who doesn't do most of the work, can start saying, which ones don't you like to do? And this is often the case where we start. Find the person who does the most work and let them prioritize the things that really are important and need to be getting done. Do you need to wipe your baseboards every week? I don't know. Maybe you do, but typically not, right? So there are priorities. So maybe of the 112 things, 50 of them are really important to do without question, without fail, every week. Then the person who doesn't do a lot of the housework, who doesn't carry the majority of the load, can say, which ones do you not prefer to do, right? Of course, perhaps many of us would not want to do any of them, but there are probably things that you're like, I can't stand doing the dishes, or I really hate vacuuming, or laundry makes me crazy. Like I cannot function. It's just endless and it's this suffocating droll of my life. It's the bane of my existence. Let's see if we can solve that. Because if we can take the thing that you can't stand off your list, the other things don't seem so heavy and dark and repressive, right? So maybe your partner does that. Maybe one of your children comes and steps into that role. Maybe you can outsource. I have a girlfriend and she has hired a laundress because she was done. She's raising many, many children and she has a lot of responsibility, and they have decided they will hire a woman to come in and just do laundry. And this woman comes in and she brings her knitting and she brings her puzzles and she can do her own things in between the laundry loads, but she spends a day doing laundry. And she said, our romantic relationship has taken off. We love each other more. We hug each other more. We're so happy and connected because this thing that we were fighting over all the time just needed to be solved in a new way. And it was brilliant. And I know not every family can do that. Not every family can hire a laundress. I didn't even know that was a thing before my friend told me about it. But if you get creative, there is a way to do this, right? Maybe you set the timer in the laundry to be run at 3 o'clock in the morning. So then you get up at 5:30, the laundry has been run, you put it in the dryer, and one of your children or your partner takes it out of the dryer and just, folds it quickly and puts it away before work. Now all of a sudden, something that you dreaded has a solution, right? It's just a little bit of creative thinking. But if your partner and you can't work at it together and solve it together, it may stay as a point to which you are pulled back into winter over and over. So on these charts, literally itemize everything you do in your household and then start breaking it down. Perhaps somebody needs to be on top of garbage on Mondays. So let's get on Sunday night. Somebody sign up to be the person that takes the garbage to the curb with all of the bags and puts new bags in the trash cans, right? Clears out all the old food in the fridge. That's somebody's job, right? And if you work Monday to Friday, perhaps the Sunday night chore of getting all of that taken care of would be awesome because you haven't been exhausted throughout your week. And it's a really easy way for you to contribute on Sunday night because you've had the weekend to kind of do your own thing. So this is an easy way that you can contribute to removing some of the heaviness that one person tends to carry. Good luck. I know this often can lead people down dark conversations of you never and I always and finger pointing. Please don't do that. If you start to feel like things heating up a little bit, say, you know what? Why don't you write down the list of things you know about? I'll write down my list and we can come together in a couple days and just compare notes, right? You may receive pushback. If you are the person that does most of the work and your partner does not do most of the work, that person is not necessarily excited to sign up for more things. They're not, right? Because they're like, I have enough going on. Nobody really wants to sign up for more housework. So then you get to get creative. You say, you know what, actually, then we're gonna prioritize and we're gonna do these 8 things every week. And that's it. We're not going to do other things. We're going to outsource it, or we're going to pull in the children, or we are going to, maybe we do a trade that somebody else does the grocery shopping for us. And, we use that hour to, vacuum all the carpets or something, right? You can start to get creative when you work together. And this is really where I want you to be, is in partnership to solve the work that it takes to run your family. So best of success going through all of the tasks and breaking it down. And really, when it gets to be a win-win, you both feel good about it, right? And if you're not there yet, try it out for a week and say, you know what, actually, this worked great. What can we do about this? This didn't fit, this didn't work for us. What else can we try? This is a solvable. So best of success in solving it. All right, I will talk to you in the next video, everyone. Thanks so much.